Every community bank CEO who starts asking strategic questions eventually hits the same wall. How do I protect what we've built? Not the price, not the structure, the culture, the people, the trust you spent decades earning. And here's the hardest part. You can't talk to anyone about it. Not your board, not your team, not even your spouse. So you carry it alone. Today, we're going to talk to you about what you can really protect and what you can't. And before you think this is about preparing to sell, it's not. This is about understanding what can be protected through contracts, what cannot, and why the second category should drive buyer selection if you ever choose to explore options. This is about clarity, so you can lead from understanding, not from fear. I'm Knutson. I founded and led a community bank as CEO and chairman. I've navigated the strategic decisions you face every day: raising capital, building a strong shareholder base, developing an engaged team, and growing a bank customers proudly call their bank. I've been in your seat through every phase of a bank's life cycle. That perspective is what you'll hear every episode. You've spent 20, 30, maybe 40 years building something that matters: a culture, a team, relationships with customers who trust you. So the thought of that disappearing in a transaction, that's not just a business concern, that's personal. Most CEOs believe they can protect everything through contract provisions: employment agreements, service standards, branch commitments, community involvement. The thinking is simple. If I negotiate hard enough, I can lock in all the protections I need. Here's what I learned when we sold our bank. Once you sign, most of what truly matters is no longer in your control. I negotiated employment agreements, service standards, all the usual protections, and then I realized the real protection came down to something I couldn't put in a contract: the buyer's culture and their commitment to doing what they said they'd do. That realization isn't defeat, it's clarity. So let's get specific, because what you can protect is real, even if it's more limited than most CEOs expect. You can negotiate employment agreements, salary, benefits, severance if things don't work out. On paper, it looks like protection. You can negotiate service standards, branch commitments, product continuation, community involvement, all with timelines. You can structure earnouts tied to customer retention, employee retention, or performance metrics. All of this is real, all of this is negotiable, but here's what you need to understand. Every one of these protections has an expiration date. Employment agreements and service standards include carve-outs for business necessity. Branch commitments almost always include language about economically viable operations. And then what? Then everything comes down to whether you chose a buyer whose culture aligns with how you built your bank. Because contracts protect the letter of what you negotiated, trust protects the spirit of what you built. Think about it this way. Can you negotiate that they keep your top commercial lender? Yes. Can you negotiate that they maintain the relationship approach that made that lender successful? No. Can you negotiate that branches stay open for 3 years? Yes. Can you negotiate that those branches stay staffed with people who know your customers by name? No. Can you negotiate employment agreements? Yes. Can you negotiate that your people are genuinely valued and developed long-term? No. This is why buyer selection matters, more than deal terms, more than price, more than structure. Once closing happens, everything that truly matters about legacy comes down to trust. And that brings us to a reframe that many CEOs need, because some of you are carrying weight that doesn't belong to you. Some of you are carrying guilt, the feeling that even considering a sale somehow betrays the people who trusted you, your team, your customers, your community. That guilt is real, but it's misplaced. Unless you own 100% of the stock, your fiduciary responsibility is to maximize shareholder value. That's not my opinion. That's your legal obligation. Exploring strategic options isn't betrayal. It's leadership. You have an obligation to understand your options, to know your bank's strategic position, to make informed decisions on behalf of your shareholders. That's not disloyalty, that's stewardship. And for many of you, this next part is the most liberating realization of all. This may sound heavy at first, but stay with me. The moment the merger closes, the bank you were CEO of no longer exists. The holding company no longer exists. Your duties as CEO end, except for distributing merger consideration to shareholders. Everything you spent decades worrying about, customers, employees, strategy, no longer rests on your shoulders. It's no longer your call. Here's what actually happens. Your competitors have been calling on your customers and recruiting your employees since announcement day, and they accelerate after closing. The buyer must do a customer meeting blitz, face-to-face meetings, introducing the new CEO and establishing continuity. They must do an employee meeting blitz, real conversations with key people, preventing talent flight. And here's the reality. You can't do this anymore. You're not in charge. The buyer you selected is executing on everything you negotiated. And you're watching, hoping you chose well. When we sold our bank, I knew something going in. I would be the most duplicated person in the organization. My role had been strategic direction. The buyer already had somebody doing that, their CEO. The value wasn't in me. It was in the team, the systems, the processes that didn't require my day-to-day involvement. Was I glad we sold? Absolutely. Did I miss going to the bank? Of course. But I understand the trade-off. Once we sold it, it wasn't my call anymore. The buyer paid good money for the right to make decisions. My role became advocacy, not control. And here's the shift that matters. This can be liberating. The weight you've carried for decades, customers, employees, shareholders, is now shared. If you pick the right buyer, you can watch what you built continue to grow under new stewardship. If you pick the wrong buyer, no contract provision was ever going to save you anyway. I enjoy watching the bank continue to grow, seeing employees develop, customers thrive, community impact continue. I'm grateful for my career banking gave me, and then I moved on. When we started today, I promised to show you what you can protect and what you can't. What you gained was more than that. Clarity on where contracts end and trust begins, permission to set down misplaced guilt, and a glimpse of what's on the other side. Not loss, liberation. Understanding your options isn't disloyalty, it's leadership. And the banks that protect their legacies aren't the ones that avoided the conversation. They're the ones that had it early with clear eyes and chose buyers they could trust. If you're thinking, is there anything structural that actually affects my influence after closing? The answer is yes. And it comes down to one decision: cash or stock. Next episode, Bank Deal Structure Explained, cash, stock, and why it matters. Because structure isn't about taxes. It's about whether you're at the table after closing or watching from the outside. If you're new to the Community Bank Value Playbook, I've created a new listener resource guide to help you get oriented. It includes an overview of the first 15 foundational episodes, links to free resources, and the best ways to engage, all in one place. You'll find it linked in the show notes. And remember, the best decisions come from knowing all your options.